So when you hear social networking, it's really talking about developing communities. Those communities are just developing online, on the net. When I talk about social recruiting, I'm talking about ways to use the power of the community to help you recruit. Now, understanding the impact of Google kind of hooks into how if there's information out there about you on the web, if it's bad, it can spread really, really fast. But if it's good, it can also spread really, really fast. So I'm going to show you some examples today of companies who have helped their good stories spread and have leveraged the social web to help get that story out. And then I'm sure someone's going to ask the question, well, what do you do if there's bad information? And we can answer that too. But I've peppered that. I'll let someone ask it, and then we'll have a question during the Q&A. Before you do anything with regard to social recruiting, social media, before you get out there and start diving into social networks, before, yes, you do something like build a Facebook page, before you start blogging, the number one thing that you should do is listen first. If you've had any company, any agency, any media company come to you and say, hey, we're going to make you a Facebook page, or we're going to make you a blog, and you are buying off on that without listening first, it could be a recipe for disaster. And what do I mean by that? Before we recommend that anybody get out there on the web and start participating, opening up and sharing information, you need to know what people are already saying. There are absolutely conversations that are already going on about your brand out on the web. When's the last time somebody Googled their company name? You should. What'd you find? Yesterday. You don't count. For major... Right. And that information is findable through Google. Listening first, making sure that you understand what is already being said about you as an employer. Who is saying it? Why are they saying it? What is the tone of what they're saying? Is it positive? Is it negative? How far and wide is that being spread? Are people actively commenting on it? Are they, is it becoming a big story? Understanding that is absolutely the first step before you go out and start participating in the social web. And participating is step 2. I would never recommend to one of our clients that let's just go start a blog without knowing what's already being said about them. Because really, once you find out, once you've listened and you understand what's being said, what should happen next might change. It might be, yeah, let's start a blog. But maybe not. It might be, let's put together a strategy for forums. Who's been to the Indeed forums? You don't count. Indeed, Indeed.com, they're forums. I would, just as a little homework assignment, after you go back to the offices, maybe tomorrow, go to Google. Google. Okay, who doesn't work on Saturday? Leave. Whenever you get around to it, Google your company name, also put in Indeed, and see what comes up. I can almost guarantee you within the top 5, you're going to see Indeed forums pop up. Click on it, see if there's any conversation going on. For a lot of you, there are, and companies have no idea that this is happening. Don't be scared. It might be good. People might actually be saying that this is a great place to work. They might just be asking questions. They're interested, they're engaged, and they're looking for help. Can someone tell me how to do X? I submitted my resume a month ago. I'm absolutely qualified. I never heard back. Can someone tell me how to, contact somebody? People actively reaching out and looking for direction. You might find that. You might find people saying this is a really bad place to work. And then we'll talk afterwards. But what I'm finding more and more, this is really called, doing a reputation audit. What I'm finding more and more, when I search for our clients' names and pair it with anything like jobs, work, worked for, fired, my boss, if I pair any of those terms together, what I'm finding more and more is that often Indeed forums are coming up in the #1 spot. Before your corporate career site, #1. So I spend a little bit of time on Indeed because they are highly search engine friendly. So you should know what's being said and what you can find. I'm also seeing for a lot of really, really big corporate names that instead of their career site coming up #1, that there might be a New York Times article that comes up as #1 talking about layoffs or talking about things that you just might never expect. The only recourse that you have, the only thing that you can do is replace any of that negative conversation with different conversation. So one, you want to make sure that your corporate career site is coming up #1, higher than the rest of that conversation. If there's talk within Indeed, frankly, even if there's not talk within Indeed, Indeed is so search engine friendly that I would recommend actually going out and starting conversations within Indeed and starting to help answer questions. The way Indeed is set up is they actually ask kind of a set of questions, salaries, culture, just what's it like to work there. I would go in and start answering those questions if there's no conversation going on. But if there is, get in there and start participating. But again, this is only after we listen first. We can talk a little bit more about that at the end if you're really interested. Now, as I was just saying about the Amazon example, there's this study that was done by Forrester. It was done in 2006, so it's getting to be a little bit old at this point. But what they were looking at specifically was trust, right? And when you're looking to recruit somebody and you want them to come work for your organization, you're building a relationship, right? You're building trust. They need to be able to trust, especially a passive candidate, that if they're going to come consider you as an employer, they have a trust in you, in your organization. That's the basis of the relationship and how it starts. And if you look at where trust comes from on the web, the #1 place of recommendations from friends and family, not on the web. #2 is consumer opinions posted online, right? #2, after recommendations from friends and family, were considered the most trustworthy. So again, you didn't know any of those people on Amazon, but you trusted their feedback. Even if it was negative, you tend to look at it and think, okay, this is unbiased. And Forrester saw the same thing. Requested email updates, right? We've talked about the power of when people opt in for emails, when they say, I want to hear from you. They also found #3, that it's powerful in building trust. Things that don't build trust. At the bottom, we have ads on mobile phones. Again, I think that's going to change. Globally, attitudes toward mobile are very different than what they are in the US, but that's really considered at the bottom. What's scary to me is branded websites, right? Right here in kind of the lower half. Considered not trustworthy, not credible. Well, that's your career site, right? That's the branded website where you're sending people. So understanding that, we want to figure out ways to incorporate more of this. How do we get that into your career site so that there's more opportunity to build a relationship and build some trust with passive candidates? And we're going to dive into the social recruiting tools. When I say social recruiting, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a whole class of tools, technologies, platforms that all basically have the same thing in common, that they allow you to share information with each other. There's two-way communication that happens. There is an exchange. Your career website can absolutely become one of those social recruiting tools, and it should. It will have to. Blogs, podcasting. Again, blogs, podcasts, you have the ability to comment. You can have a two-way exchange of information. Photo sharing sites. Who's heard of Flickr? All right, that'll go up. How about Shutterfly? Oh, Photo. All right, that's a little bit more. The ability to be able to post your photos up online. Imagine doing that 10 years ago, right? How easy it is to now just share your vacation photos with your family. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to know how to program. You can put all of your content up on the web and share it with people. And then in some sites, you can even leave comments. Say, hey, that's a great picture of your kid.